Chapter 1: The Silence After the Crowd ****. Cities are strange living things. They breathe in the morning. They sigh at night. They stretch when the sun rises and slowly curl in on themselves when the lights go out. Right now, as you listen, somewhere in the world a city is falling asleep. Windows dim one by one. Footsteps fade. A last train passes through a station that smells faintly of metal and rain. But tonight, we are not visiting a city that sleeps. We are visiting cities that stopped waking up. Streets that once echoed with voices now hold only wind. Markets that once argued loudly over prices now negotiate with dust. Doors stand open, not because someone forgot to close them, but because no one came back. And somehow, they are not loud about it. Abandoned cities do not scream. They do not beg. They simply wait. If cities could speak, these ones would whisper, "We are still here. We're just paused." Take a slow breath in. Not a dramatic one, just a comfortable one. Let your shoulders drop a little, like they remembered they don't need to work right now. These places were once busy. They had bad mornings. They had long lines. They had neighbors who borrowed things and never returned them. Very normal city behavior. Someone spilled soup on these streets once. Someone laughed too loudly here. Someone was late for something important. And then slowly they left. Not all at once. Not with alarms or countdowns. Usually one family at a time. One bag packed. One door closed softly. That is how cities usually end. Not with fire, but with footsteps walking away. Breathe in again. Slow. Easy. You do not need to imagine danger tonight. These cities are quiet now. They have already told their stories to time. A long time ago, people believed cities were permanent. Stone walls felt eternal. Bricks felt stubborn. Surely something built this carefully would last forever. But time, as always, smiled politely and did not agree. Time is very good at waiting. It watched people build homes. It watched them argue about paint colors. It watched them fix roofs, then fix them again. And when everyone finally left, time stayed behind, holding the keys. Now grass grows where shoes once walked. Trees lean through windows, curious but respectful. Birds hold meetings in empty theaters. Nature does not rush. Nature never says, "We should fix this immediately." Nature says, "We'll get to it." And slowly it does. These cities are not broken. They are resting. If you've ever paused a movie and walked away, you know the feeling. The characters freeze mid-motion. A hand stays raised. A door stays half open. Abandoned cities feel like that. Like someone pressed pause and forgot to come back. Another slow breath in and out. Let your breathing match the pace of empty streets. Nothing urgent here. No one honking. No notifications. Just space. Tonight, we will walk through places that were once full of life. Not to feel sad. Not to feel scared. But to listen. Because silence is not empty. It is full of memories that no longer need to speak loudly. Some of these cities were left because the earth changed its mind. Rivers moved. Volcanoes woke up. Rain forgot how to visit. Some were left because humans changed their minds. Trade routes shifted. Borders moved. Power packed its bags and went somewhere else. And some were left for reasons no one fully agrees on. Those are always the quietest ones. But here is the important thing to remember as we begin. None of these places failed. Cities do not fail. They complete their chapters. A city exists to serve the people who live there. And when that chapter ends, the city does not complain. It simply becomes something else. A memory, a lesson, a quiet place for moss to practice patience. Breathe in gently and out. If your thoughts wander, that's okay. They often do when the world slows down. Let them drift like leaves across a wide, empty square. You might imagine walking through one of these cities now. Your footsteps are soft, even on stone. There is no rush to get anywhere. Nothing closes soon. Nothing expects you. You pass houses that still remember laughter. You pass walls that once heard arguments and now keep secrets for birds. Somewhere, a door creaks in the wind. Not spooky, just old. Old things make noise sometimes. It's their way of stretching. The silence here is friendly. It has been alone for a long time. It does not mind your company. Cities like these teach us something simple. Everything we build is temporary. And that's not a bad thing. Temporary things matter deeply while they exist. And when they are done, they rest. Just like you will soon. Another breath in and let it go. As this journey begins, there is nothing you need to remember. No names, no dates, no pressure. Just stories told slowly by places that no longer rush. Tonight, we will listen to cities that were abandoned and never returned to. Cities that chose quiet over noise. Cities that let time take the lead. And for now, as the world outside keeps moving, you are allowed to slow down. The crowd is gone. The streets are quiet. And the story can finally begin. Chapter 2: Why Cities Die. Cities do not usually die in dramatic ways. They don't gasp. They don't collapse all at once like in movies. Most of the time they fade. Quietly, politely. A city rarely wakes up one morning and says, "All right, everyone, that's it, pack your bags." Instead, it gives small hints, subtle signs, the kind that are easy to ignore at first. A shop closes early. A street feels quieter than it used to. Someone you know moves away and says, "Just for now." This is how cities begin to disappear. Let's start with nature, because nature has never read city plans. Volcanoes, for example, are very honest. They don't argue. They don't negotiate. They simply say, "I live here too," and then they remind everyone. Sometimes a mountain sleeps for centuries. Very polite, very calm. People build homes nearby. They plant gardens. They name streets after nice things like flowers and sunshine. Then one day, the mountain stretches. Ash falls slowly like gray snow. At first, it looks gentle. Then breathing becomes hard. Roofs grow heavy. And people realize this is not a place to stay. Earthquakes are different. They don't warn you much at all. The ground shifts. Walls crack. And suddenly the idea of a stable home feels a bit optimistic. After a few shakes, people start to wonder. They ask quiet questions. Do we rebuild? Or do we move somewhere that does not move? Floods work slowly, but stubbornly. Water rises. It visits places it was never invited to. Basements, markets, bedrooms. When water comes back again and again, people stop arguing with it. They leave the keys on tables. They close doors gently. They go somewhere higher. Nature does not chase people away. It simply makes staying uncomfortable. Now let's talk about humans. War does not knock softly. Armies arrive loudly. Borders shift without asking. Streets that once sold bread begin to sell fear instead. People do not wait to see how this ends. They leave early if they can. They take children. They take memories. They leave buildings behind. When war passes, sometimes cities return. Sometimes they do not. Because war does more than break walls. It breaks trust. A place that once felt safe now feels unpredictable. And safety is one thing humans refuse to compromise on, especially at night. Then there is climate change, which sounds modern, but is very old. Rivers dry up. Rain forgets a region. Fields stop producing food. A city can survive many things, but not thirst. When wells sink lower each year, people notice. When crops fail quietly, people notice more. No announcement is made. No sirens sound. One family leaves, then another. Soon the bakery closes because no one needs bread for a place they won't stay. Economic collapse is quieter still. Cities depend on movement of goods, of money, of ideas. Trade routes shift like tired feet. Ships stop docking. Caravans choose different paths. A city that once stood at the center of everything suddenly finds itself slightly off to the side. Jobs disappear first, then young people, then hope. Buildings remain strong, but empty. Markets echo instead of buzz. No disaster needed, just time and change. Disease may be the quietest reason of all. A sickness arrives. People get tired, very tired. Streets grow quiet not because people left, but because they stayed inside. When fear lasts too long, staying no longer feels safe either. Some cities empty this way, slowly, carefully, with distance and silence. People don't run, they retreat. And here is the part most people misunderstand. Cities are not usually abandoned suddenly. It is not one final day where everyone leaves together. There is no last bus with dramatic music. It happens one by one. A teacher moves first, then a shop owner, then a doctor. Each departure makes the city slightly less livable, and that encourages the next person to go. The streetlights still work. The buildings still stand. But the feeling is gone. That feeling is hard to describe, but easy to notice. A city feels like it's holding its breath. People often say, "We'll come back," and they mean it. They really do. But life keeps moving. Children grow. Jobs appear elsewhere. Memories become enough. Soon, returning feels unnecessary. The city is not angry about this. Cities are very patient. They wait as long as they need to. Grass cracks pavement. Birds move into apartments. Wind learns the layout of streets. The city becomes quieter, but not empty. It simply changes owners. What once belonged to people now belongs to time. And time is gentle, but persistent. So when we ask why cities die, the answer is simple. They don't. They transition. They move from being lived in to being remembered. And in the quiet that follows, they tell stories to anyone willing to listen slowly, just like you are now. Take a soft breath in and let it go. Nothing here is urgent. These stories have waited a long time, and they will wait a little longer as we continue. Chapter 4, Herculaneum, the quieter neighbor asterisk asterisk. Italy. Not far from Pompeii, there was another town. Smaller, calmer, less interested in showing off. Its name was Herculaneum. If Pompeii was busy and loud, Herculaneum was relaxed. More like the place you move to when you're done with crowds. Fewer streets, fewer arguments, better naps. Herculaneum sat closer to the sea. The air smelled salty. Homes were comfortable, not flashy. People here liked routine, and routine liked them back. Life moved slowly, and that was the point. The town did not try to impress anyone. It did not expect history to remember it. Most days were simple. People opened shutters to let light in. They swept floors. They cooked food that smelled familiar. Wooden furniture creaked a little when people sat down. That creak meant home. Mount Vesuvius was there too, of course. The same mountain. The same quiet presence. But Herculaneum trusted it. Just like Pompeii did. Maybe even more. The day began like any other. No panic. No warnings that felt serious enough to cancel plans. Some people may have noticed ash in the distance, but ash had fallen before. It did not always mean trouble. So people stayed. That choice mattered. Because what came next did not fall slowly like snow. It arrived fast. A pyroclastic flow is not something you outrun. It is not something you argue with. It is a wall of heat, gas, and ash moving faster than thought. One moment, the town existed as it always had. The next, it was gone. There was no long waiting period. No time to gather things. The flow rushed in and filled everything. Not gently, not politely, but quickly. And then it stopped. The silence afterward was complete. Herculaneum did not crumble. It was sealed. Ash and volcanic material wrapped the town like a heavy blanket. But instead of crushing everything, it preserved it. Something unusual happened here. Wood did not burn away. It carbonized. Furniture stayed in place. Beds, doors, shelves. Food remained where it was last set down. Bread, fruit, even nuts. Time did not erase these things. It locked them in place. Centuries later, when people uncovered Herculaneum, they found details Pompeii did not keep. Wooden beams still stretched across ceilings. Cabinets still lined walls. Stairs still knew where they led. It felt personal. Pompeii shows us a city paused in public. Herculaneum shows us a city paused in private. You can almost sense the quiet routines. A chair pushed back slightly. A door closed halfway. A table waiting for hands that never returned. The town feels smaller, but closer. Like it is whispering instead of speaking. And then there is the silence. Not the sudden silence of disaster, but the long silence that followed. No rebuilding came after. No new homes stacked on old ones. No attempt to restart life there. Why? Because Herculaneum was buried too deeply. The ground above it hardened. Digging it out fully would take enormous effort. And also because people understood something. This town was not empty. It was full of memory. Rebuilding would mean disturbing what had been preserved so carefully. So Herculaneum stayed quiet. The sea nearby continued its rhythm. Waves came and went. The town stayed asleep. Even today, when people walk through its streets, the mood is different. There is no grand drama here. No wide open spaces. Everything feels close. Rooms are small. Hallways narrow. Life feels near. And so does absence. You can imagine someone standing in a doorway, deciding whether to step out. They did not. Herculaneum teaches a different lesson than Pompeii. Not all endings are slow. Some are instant. But even sudden endings can leave behind gentleness. The town does not feel angry. It does not feel tragic in a loud way. It feels quiet, like a room after everyone has gone to bed. The wooden furniture rests. The food stays where it was last placed. The town holds its breath forever. No rebuilding happened because nothing was missing. The story was complete. Sometimes the most respectful thing humans can do is not fix something. Just listen. Let the past sit comfortably where it is. Take a slow breath in and let it out. The faint wind moves through old streets. A distant rumble reminds the earth is still alive. Herculaneum remains the quieter neighbor, and it seems perfectly fine with that. Chapter 5, Mohenjo-Daro, The Forgotten Engineers ***. Indus Valley, modern Pakistan. Long before tall skylines and traffic lights, there was a city that already understood how cities should work. Its name was Mohenjo-Daro. The name means something like the Mound of the Dead, which sounds dramatic, but the city itself was not dramatic at all. It was calm, organized, quietly brilliant. Mohenjo-Daro sat along the Indus Valley, surrounded by flat land and wide skies. No mountains showing off. No giant walls trying to look important. Just a city that worked. People here woke up early. Not because alarms told them to, but because the sun did. Homes were made of baked brick, neat and practical. Streets ran straight, crossing each other like they had been planned by someone who liked things tidy. And they were planned. Very carefully. This city had drainage. Not the hope the rain goes somewhere kind. Real drainage. Covered channels ran beneath streets. Wastewater flowed away from homes instead of into them. Bathrooms existed inside houses, not hidden far away. Even today, many cities would like to copy this idea. Mohenjo-daro did not have giant palaces. No massive statues of kings pointing at the sky. No clear signs of armies or weapons. That tells us something important. This was not a city obsessed with power. It was a city focused on living. People bathed. People worked. People rested. Urban life here feels peaceful when you imagine it. Busy, yes, but not loud. Merchants traded goods. Craftspeople shaped tools. Children played in streets that were clean enough to play in. There were public baths carefully built, probably used for daily life and rituals. Water mattered here. It connected everything. For a long time, the Indus River provided what the city needed. It flowed nearby, reliable, generous. Rivers feel permanent when they behave themselves. But rivers are allowed to change their minds. Slowly, over many years, the river shifted. It moved away from the city. Not dramatically. Not suddenly. Just enough. Water became harder to reach. Floods came when they were not wanted. Dry seasons lasted longer than expected. At first, people adjusted. They always do. They dug wells. They managed water carefully. They adapted. But adaptation takes energy, and slowly, that energy ran out. There's no invasion, no burning, no single moment where everyone panicked. Life simply became harder. Fields struggled. Trade slowed. Water systems worked, but without a nearby river, even the best planning feels tired. So, people made a choice. One family left, then another. Not because they were afraid, but because staying no longer made sense. Mohenjo-daro did not fall. It emptied. That is an important difference. The city stayed standing. Bricks remained stacked neatly. Streets stayed straight. But the sound of life faded. Footsteps stopped echoing. Water channels ran dry. And then, one day, no one was left to lock the door. Why did no one return? Because the reason people left never changed. The river did not come back. Without water, a city, no matter how smart, cannot breathe. Later generations may have passed nearby. They may have seen the ruins. They may have wondered who lived there. But rebuilding a city without its lifeline is like fixing a boat without the sea. So Mohenjo-daro stayed where it was, waiting, buried slowly by dust and time, not destroyed, just covered. When it was discovered again, thousands of years later, people were surprised. Not by how old it was, but by how modern it felt. Straight roads, uniform bricks, thoughtful design. It felt like a city built by people who cared about everyday comfort. No giant throne rooms, no towers shouting importance. Just homes, bus, drains. Mohenjo-daro feels respectful of its people, and that may be why its silence feels peaceful. There is no sense of panic here, no scars of violence, only absence. The city seems to say, we did what we could, then we moved on. There is something calming about that. Not every story needs drama. Some stories are about balance, and sometimes balance shifts. The forgotten engineers of Mohenjo-Daro understood something simple. A city should serve life, not dominate it. When it could no longer do that, life found somewhere else. Take a slow breath in and let it go. Imagine the wind moving through old streets, not rushing, just passing. The bricks remain. The plan remains. The people are gone, but not erased. Mohenjo-Daro rests now, quiet and patient, an ancient reminder that even the smartest cities listen to nature. And when nature speaks softly, wise cities leave softly too. Chapter 6, Anchor, When the Jungle Took the City ***. Cambodia. Once upon a very long time ago, there was a city so large that it could be seen from the sky. Not with towers, not with noise, but with careful planning. This city was Angkor. In its time, Angkor was one of the largest cities in the medieval world. Bigger than London back then. Bigger than Paris too. Quietly bigger. Calmly impressive. Angkor did not rush. It spread out, low and wide, surrounded by forests and fields. Temples rose slowly from the land, built of stone that felt patient and strong. Life here moved with the sun and the rain. Farmers worked nearby fields. Monks walked softly. Water flowed everywhere, guided with great care. Angkor understood water. Maybe even loved it a little too much. The city had massive water systems. Canals. Reservoirs. Berets so large they looked like lakes. These were not decorations. They were survival. Rain came strong during monsoon season. Dry months followed. Angkor caught water when it arrived and saved it for later. Very smart. Very organized. The temples reflected this care. Stone towers rose like mountains shaped by hands. Carvings told stories slowly, scene by scene. God, kings, everyday life. Angkor Wat, the most famous temple, was not just a place to visit. It was a map of the universe in stone. This was a city that believed order mattered. For centuries, Angkor thrived. People lived in wooden homes around stone temples. Markets filled and emptied. Rituals followed seasons. The jungle stayed nearby, but it behaved. Then the climate changed. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just enough. Rain patterns shifted. Droughts lasted longer. Floods came at the wrong times. Water systems that once felt perfect began to struggle. Canals filled with silt. Reservoirs did not refill as they should. Engineers tried to fix things. They always do. But when climate stops cooperating, even the best plans feel tired. Farming became harder. Food became less reliable. And slowly, people began to leave. Not all at once. One village moved closer to water. Another followed. Monks stayed longer than most. They often do. Kings shifted power elsewhere. Trade routes changed. Angkor did not fall. It emptied. The retreat was slow and quiet. Homes decayed first, made of wood and memory. Stone temples remained, solid and calm. And then the jungle stepped forward. The jungle is very patient. It does not hurry. It does not announce itself. Roots pressed gently against walls. Vines climbed towers without asking permission. Trees grew in places where people once prayed. Stone cracked, not from anger, but from time and pressure. Angkor became green. Birds moved into temples. Monkeys explored courtyards. Rain washed carvings clean again and again. The city was not destroyed. It was absorbed. So why did no one rebuild Angkor into a living city again? Because Angkor changed its role. It became sacred. The temples were not empty ruins. They were holy places. Monks continued to visit. Pilgrims came quietly. To rebuild houses, markets, and noise around them would have felt wrong. Angkor was no longer a city meant for living. It was a city meant for remembering. And also, the water problem never fully solved itself. Without stable water, a city cannot grow again. It can only be visited. So Angkor stayed as it was, a place where stone and jungle share space. There is something peaceful about Angkor today. You walk through temples where roots hold walls like slow hands. You hear insects instead of crowds. You feel watched, not by people, but by time. The jungle did not conquer Angkor. It cared for it in its own way, covering sharp edges, softening lines. Angkor teaches a gentle lesson. Even the greatest cities depend on balance between humans and nature, between planning and patience. When that balance shifts, the smartest thing a city can do is step aside. And Angkor did. Take a slow breath in and let it go. Imagine the soundscape. Leaves moving, distant birds, stone warming in sunlight. No shouting, no rush, just a city that became something quieter. Angkor is no longer alive in the way cities usually are, but it is not dead either. It lives as stone, shadow, and jungle breath, and it seems perfectly at peace with that. Chapter 7, Great Zimbabwe, Stone Without a Voice ***. Southern Africa. In the wide lands of Southern Africa, there was once a city built almost entirely from stone. No cement, no mortar, no glue holding things together. Just stone, stacked carefully by hand. This city was called Great Zimbabwe. The walls rose high and curved gently, like they were shaped by patience instead of force. Some stones were carried from far away. Some were shaped to fit so well that even today, a blade of grass would struggle to slide between them. It was quiet strength, the kind that does not brag. Great Zimbabwe was not hidden. It stood proudly in open land, surrounded by hills and grass. You could see it from far away, and that was the point. This was a place of importance. Inside the stone walls, life moved steadily, not rushed, not lazy. People raised cattle, which meant wealth. They worked gold, which meant power. They traded goods, which meant connection. Great Zimbabwe was not alone. Trade routes linked it to the coast of the Indian Ocean. Goods moved in and out quietly. Gold left. Glass beads, cloth, and ideas arrived. This city knew the world was bigger than its walls. Culture thrived here. Music, rituals, beliefs tied to land and ancestors. Leadership existed, but it did not shout. There were no giant statues of kings pointing at the sky. Power here felt grounded. Stone birds were carved and placed carefully. They watched without speaking. They still do. Life depended on the land. Cattle grazed nearby. Fields were worked year after year. Rain mattered. And for a long time, the land provided. But soil can grow tired. Slowly, harvests weakened. Grass thinned. Cattle had less to eat. When land is asked to give too much for too long, it begins to say no. Political changes followed. Leadership shifted. Power moved. Trade routes adjusted. Nothing dramatic happened. No fires. No invasion tearing walls down. People began to leave quietly. Some followed cattle to better grazing lands. Some followed trade to new centers of power. Some simply moved closer to water. Great Zimbabwe did not empty in fear. It emptied in practicality. Stone walls remained. Homes emptied. Voices faded. The city stood, silent and intact. This kind of abandonment is easy to miss. There is no single story to tell. No moment to point to and say, that's when it ended. It just softened. The sound of daily life drifted away. Grass grew taller. Birds nested in walls. The stone did not complain. Why did no one return to rebuild? Because cities are not just walls. They are systems. Without strong soil, large herds, and steady trade, rebuilding would mean forcing life where it no longer fit. So Great Zimbabwe stayed quiet. Then came the misunderstandings. Much later, when outsiders saw the ruins, they were confused. They could not believe local people built this. The stonework felt too advanced, too careful. So myths appeared. Some said foreigners built it. Some said it was not African at all. These stories said more about the people telling them than about the city itself. The truth is simple. Great Zimbabwe was built by skilled African builders, planners, engineers, people who understood stone, land, and balance. The city did not disappear because it failed. It disappeared because conditions changed. And instead of fighting the land, people listened. The stone walls remain today, still standing without mortar. They speak without words. They tell a story of quiet power, trade, culture, and restraint. No voice echoes through the ruins now, but the silence is full. Take a slow breath in and let it go. Imagine walking beside those walls. The stone is cool. The air is still. No crowd, no commands, just a city that knew when to stop. Great Zimbabwe rests, steady and silent, stone without a voice, and somehow it says everything. Chapter 8, Mesa Verde, Homes in the Cliffs, ***, Colorado, USA. High in the rocky canyons of the American Southwest, there are homes that do not sit on the land. They cling to it. These are the cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde, built by the ancestral Pueblo people. Homes tucked into stone walls, carefully placed beneath overhangs, protected from sun, wind, and snow. If you saw them for the first time, you might wonder two things right away. First, how did anyone build this? Second, how did anyone carry groceries up there? Mesa Verde sits in what is now Colorado. Dry land, big sky, sharp seasons. Not an easy place to live. And yet people did. For generations. The ancestral Pueblo people were skilled farmers in a harsh landscape. They grew corn, beans, and squash. They understood soil, seasons, and patience. Farming here was never simple. Rain did not always arrive on time. Sometimes it did not arrive at all. So people adapted. They built homes in cliffs where shade helped control heat. Stone walls kept warmth in during winter. Overhangs blocked rain when storms came suddenly. These were not desperate shelters. They were planned homes. Rooms were stacked like careful puzzles. Small windows let light in without letting too much heat escape. Ladders connected levels. Families lived close together. Not because they had to, but because community mattered. Life here was busy but balanced. People worked fields below the cliffs. They stored food carefully. They shared tools, stories, and space. From above, the dwellings watched over the land. They were quiet observers, but the land was always in charge. For many years, farming worked well enough. Then the droughts came. Not short dry spells, long ones. Rain fell less often. Crops struggled. Corn, which had been reliable, became uncertain. At first, people adjusted. They planted differently. They conserved food. They hoped the next season would be better. Hope is powerful, but it needs support. The droughts lasted decades. Water sources weakened. Harvests failed more often. And slowly, families began to leave. This part matters. The ancestral Pueblo people did not vanish. They did not disappear mysteriously. They migrated. One group moved here. Another moved there. They followed water. They followed better land. They carried knowledge with them. The cliff homes were not abandoned in panic. They were left carefully. Tools were taken. Important items were packed. Doors were closed. The dwellings stayed behind, empty but intact. So why were these homes never resettled? Because the reasons people left never changed. The drought did not suddenly fix itself. Farming remained difficult. Also, life had moved on. New communities formed elsewhere. New homes were built in places that made more sense. Returning to the cliffs would mean starting over in a place that had already said quietly, "This is not sustainable anymore." And so Mesa Verde rested. The cliffs held the homes safely. Stone does that. Centuries passed. Wind moved through empty rooms. Snow settled on ledges. Birds found new places to perch. The dwellings did not crumble. They waited. When modern visitors arrive today, the feeling is calm, not sad. You look at these homes and feel respect. These were skilled builders, thoughtful planners, people who understood their environment deeply. Mesa Verde is not a ghost town in the spooky sense. It is more like a neighborhood on a very long pause. The silence feels intentional. For a U.S. audience, Mesa Verde hits close to home. This is not a lost city from far away. This is part of American history, rooted in the land itself. It reminds us that people lived thoughtfully here long before highways and power lines. And it reminds us of something else, too. Living with the land matters. The ancestral Pueblo people did not try to force the cliffs to give more than they could. When conditions changed too much, they chose movement over collapse. That is not failure. That is wisdom. Sometimes the smartest move is leaving a place you love before it breaks you. Take a slow breath in and let it go. Imagine standing at the edge of the canyon. Below you, fields stretch out. Above you, stone curves gently. The homes sit quietly in the cliff face. No voices, no footsteps, just wind moving carefully through history. Mesa Verde does not ask to be filled again. It stands as it is, a reminder carved into stone. People were here. They lived well. And when it was time, they left with respect. The cliffs remember. And now so do we. Chapter 9, Scarabray, Stone Homes by the Sea ***, Scotland. Long before anyone dreamed of castles or bagpipes, there was a village by the sea. This village was Scarabray, older than the pyramids. Yes, older. Older than the things we usually brag about. And somehow it still feels close, like it is whispering across time. Scarabray sits in the Orkney Islands, off the northern coast of Scotland. Windy, wet, and sharp in a gentle way. The sea has always been nearby, both friend and occasional troublemaker. The village was small, but smart. Homes were made of stone, low to the ground, cozy. You can imagine people curling up inside when storms arrived. The kind of storms that make the wind sound like it's singing in pipes. Inside, homes had stone furniture. Beds built from stone slabs. Shelves carved from walls. Even cupboards were clever. Everything fit neatly, like a puzzle designed for humans and their belongings. Life here was shaped by the weather and by the sea. Fishing, gathering shellfish, tending small gardens were possible. Food had to be worked for carefully. Nothing wasted, nothing hurried. And the wind, oh the wind. It shaped more than hairdos. It shaped how people built, how they moved, how they thought about home. Doors were low to block gusts, walls thick to keep warmth in, hearths central to each house, because fire is a good friend when the Atlantic decides to visit. Life went on for hundreds of years like this. Routine, steady, connected to nature in a way modern cities often forget. Then, slowly, the sea began to interfere. Not in a dramatic movie style. Not with a sudden tsunami. Just with quiet, persistent action. Storms became stronger. Waves crept closer to the village. Sand and soil shifted. The ocean's edges moved, not because it was angry, but because water always moves. People noticed. They adapted. Raised walls, rebuilt homes, moved furniture slightly further inland. But nature is patient and relentless in its own calm way. Eventually, the village became harder to live in. Water and wind forced more work. Food became trickier. Life was not impossible, but it was no longer easy. People began to leave, slowly, one family at a time, not in panic, not with alarm bells. The village emptied quietly. Homes stood. Stone furniture remained. Every step carefully preserved. Then sand and time did their work. The village was slowly covered, almost like nature wanted to hold it in a soft embrace. For centuries, Skara Brae stayed hidden, intact but secret, a ghostly memory beneath sand and soil. No rebuilding ever happened. Once the village was abandoned, the reason to return vanished. The sea was too close. The land had shifted. Life had moved elsewhere. When archaeologists finally uncovered it, they found a village frozen in small human moments. Stone beds, hearths, drawers, signs of everyday life, untouched by hurried modern hands. Walking through Skara Brae today feels like stepping into a story that paused long ago. No noise of crowds, no modern chaos, just the whisper of history and maybe a gentle wind if you stand in the right place. It's hard not to smile a little when you see how clever the people were. Stone beds, small storage, careful placement of every item. They had humor too, probably, though the wind mostly carries silence. Skara Brae teaches us a simple lesson. Life depends on balance. The sea gives, the wind gives, and sometimes they ask you to leave. Abandonment is not always failure. Sometimes it is wisdom. The people of Skara Brae did not vanish. They moved on to new places where life was easier, taking their knowledge with them. And the village stayed, safe beneath sand, waiting to tell its story. Take a slow breath in and let it go. Imagine the faint sound of waves in the distance. Imagine wind moving softly across stone walls. No voices, no rush, just history holding its breath. Skara Brae is a village older than empires, older than pyramids, older than most of the stories we tell at night. And yet it feels familiar. The homes are small but full of life. The stone furniture waits quietly. The wind whispers across the ruins. No one lives there anymore, and yet everything is preserved. A village by the sea, paused in time, waiting for anyone willing to listen. And now we listen. Chapter 10, The City of 1,000 Churches ***. Turkey-Armenia border. High on a plateau near the border of modern Turkey and Armenia, there is a city that was once called Ani. Once it was a capital. Bustling trade hub, a place where merchants from many lands passed through, carrying silk, spices, and stories. But Ani was known for something else too. For its churches, hundreds of them. Some say 1,000. Tall spires, carved stone, intricate designs. Every street seemed to lead to prayer. Every square had a quiet echo of devotion. Life in Ani was busy but graceful. People moved between markets and mosques, homes and churches, carrying goods and ideas. Art flourished. Stone sculptors worked carefully. Even small details were given attention because Ani knew beauty mattered. The city sat on a plateau, surrounded by rivers. It was defensible. It looked eternal. But Ani like all cities, depended on more than stone and faith. Nature has its way of reminding humans who is really in charge. Earthquakes shook the plateau, some stronger than others. Buildings crumbled quietly, walls splitting, towers tilting. No one wanted to live under unstable stone. People rebuilt. They patched cracks. They reinforced walls. Ani endured in spite of nature's nudges. Then borders shifted. What was once a city on a busy trade route became a city slightly off the map. Merchants chose other paths. Goods flowed elsewhere. People followed the trade. Without traffic, Ani slowed down. Markets became quiet. Squares emptied. And the churches, though still standing, had fewer voices to fill them. The city did not vanish suddenly. It emptied gradually. One family left. One merchant closed a shop. A teacher moved to a different town. Ani's silence grew slowly, a quiet echo replacing the usual bustle. Why did no one return to rebuild? Because Ani was no longer on the path of life. Trade did not flow back. Earthquakes still reminded people that stone could not always be trusted. And yet Ani remained magnificent. Churches still reached for the sky. Carvings held stories of saints, kings, and ordinary people. Even in emptiness, the city spoke. Walking through Ani today feels like stepping into a city paused midlife. No crowds, no shouting, just the wind through broken arches and crumbling walls. There is something humbling about that. The city does not demand attention. It waits. Ani teaches us that even greatness can be fragile. That prosperity is tied to location, luck, and patience. And that time slowly moves everyone along. Take a slow breath in and let it go. Imagine the quiet streets. Imagine the churches, spires pointing skyward, waiting for voices that never returned. Ani does not feel empty. It feels patient. It tells stories quietly, letting the stones do the talking. A city that once hummed with life now hums with memory. And memory, Ani shows us, can be just as powerful as life itself. Chapter 11, Vapor Sikri, a capital without water ***. India. In the heart of India, there is a city that looks like a dream frozen in stone. Vapor Sikri. It was built by an emperor who wanted everything perfect. Grand palaces, courtyards that stretched wide enough to make you pause, intricate carvings on walls, gardens that smelled like a secret waiting to be discovered. This was not just any city. It was a royal dream. A statement that said, we can shape the world exactly as we want. For a while it worked. People moved in. Soldiers, merchants, craftsmen, and families all made it home. Life filled the streets. Markets hummed. Courtyards echoed with laughter, music, and the clatter of daily life. But even the most beautiful city depends on something very ordinary: water. Vapor Sikri had a problem. The wells were shallow. Rainfall was unreliable. The nearby rivers were not enough to support a growing population. At first, people tried to fix it. Engineers dug deeper wells. Water channels were built. Cisterns collected rain. But nothing was enough. Imagine having a palace with 1,000,000 rooms, but the taps barely trickled. Courtyards full of fountains looked beautiful, but the fountains ran dry. Gardens wilted. Daily life became a struggle. The emperor faced a choice: keep people here and fight the water, or move to a place where water was reliable. He moved, not in panic, not in anger, just practical. The court relocated. Slowly, others followed. Merchants, soldiers, families, and the city emptied. But it did not crumble. Walls remained. Palaces remained. Courtyards waited patiently. Every carving, every stone still intact. So why was Fate Persikri never rebuilt? Because the problem that emptied it never went away. Water shortage is not a problem you ignore. Without water, no city, no matter how grand, can survive. The buildings were perfect. The design was magnificent. But perfection does not solve basic needs. The empty streets now echo differently. No market chatter. No horses clattering on stone. Just the wind moving through arches and corridors. Walking through Fate Persikri today feels like stepping into a royal pause. Everything is beautiful. Everything is ready. Yet no one is home. It teaches a simple lesson. A city can be grand. It can impress the world. It can shine like a jewel. But if it cannot sustain life, it will not last. Take a slow breath in and let it go. Imagine standing in the main courtyard. Fountains empty. Sunlight warming carved stone. No footsteps echoing except your own. Fate Persikri does not feel sad. It does not demand pity. It waits. It shows us the beauty of planning, ambition, and also the limits of dreams without basics. The city's silence is not emptiness. It is patience. A royal reminder that even the most perfect city is at the mercy of simple needs. And in that silence, you can almost hear the story. Not the story of failure, but the story of wisdom. People lived here. People left. And the city remained. Fate Persikri stands today, intact, waiting for visitors to admire it, listen to it, and remember that even dreams need water to grow. Chapter 12, Pripyat, the modern ghost city ***. Ukraine. In northern Ukraine, there is a city built not by kings, not by emperors, but by planners. Pripyat. It was designed as a perfect home for workers of a nearby nuclear power plant. Apartments lined up in neat rows. Schools filled with children's laughter. Parks meant for picnics and football games. Shops stocked with daily necessities. Life here was modern, organized, and full of small comforts. People woke up to alarms or sunlight, went to work, returned home, shared meals, and repeated it all the next day. The city hummed quietly, like a well-tuned machine. Nothing flashy, nothing ancient, just daily life, neat and predictable. Then, in April 1986, everything changed. Not gradually, not slowly, but suddenly. A nuclear disaster occurred nearby. Radiation spread. It was invisible, silent, danger you could not see. Authorities decided evacuation was necessary. People had little time. They left their homes, their schools, their parks. Everything they owned was packed into cars or left behind. And then, just like that, Pripyat emptied. But the buildings remained. Concrete walls, metal railings, playgrounds frozen in mid-use. The city became quiet. Nature is patient, and it is persistent. Grass began to grow through cracks in asphalt. Trees pushed through windows. Animals wandered streets that humans once occupied. Birds nested in abandoned apartment blocks. Even small mammals explored halls once full of footsteps. Pripyat did not collapse. It did not crumble. It simply transformed. Buildings stayed standing. Schools, gyms, and theaters remained intact, though empty. A Ferris wheel in the amusement park turned slowly in memory only. The city became a museum of absence, a snapshot of one day paused forever. Why did no one return permanently? Because radiation remained. Invisible, persistent, and dangerous. Safety is not optional. The city is not haunted in the spooky sense. It is haunted by time and circumstance. Concrete waits. Nature takes its turn, and humans stay away. Pripyat teaches us something unusual. Cities do not always fade because of war, drought, or slow decline. Sometimes, modern cities vanish in a blink, leaving behind the trappings of life for the world to observe. Take a slow breath in and let it out. Walk in your mind through streets without sound. Notice the schools, the apartment blocks, the park benches. Everything is still. Everything is empty. Yet life persists in its own way. Grass grows. Trees bend in the wind. Birds call quietly. Pripyat is a ghost city, yes, but not tragic. Not angry. It is calm. It is factual. A city paused by a moment of human error and a choice for survival. No one returned permanently, and that is okay. The city stands as a quiet reminder, not of fear, but of balance. Human ambition meets natural limits, and nature adapts where humans cannot. Pripyat remains, slowly changing, concrete and trees sharing space. A modern ghost city that does not shout. It waits. It teaches. And in its silence, it speaks. Chapter 13, Oradour sur Glane, Preserved Silence ***. France. In the rolling hills of western France, there is a village that looks alive but is not. Oradour sur Glane. Once, it was a small, lively village. People lived ordinary lives. Children played in streets. Shops sold bread and cheese. Farmers tended their fields. Life moved at a calm, steady pace. Then one day, life stopped. During the Second World War, the village experienced sudden destruction. Not slow decline, not natural disaster. A violent, deliberate act that emptied streets and homes in heartbeat. The people who had lived there were gone. The buildings remained. But life did not return. After the war, the decision was made to leave Oradour sur Glane untouched. It could have been rebuilt. New houses could have been stacked over old foundations. Life could have returned. But the village became something else. A memory, a memorial, a place where silence speaks louder than words. Walking through Oradour-sur-Glane today, you see what remains of the old village. Crumbling walls, empty doorways, shattered windows that let the wind pass freely. It is not scary. It is quiet, almost peaceful, in a way that makes you stop and breathe. Every stone tells a story. Every empty house reminds you that life was once here. Bread ovens, kitchens, and shops, all preserved in stillness. The village teaches us something unusual. Not every abandoned place is lost because of nature or time. Some are frozen by human choice. Oradour-sur-Glane was preserved not to trap the past in fear. It was preserved to remember, to honor, to make sure that those who were gone are never forgotten. The silence here is intentional. It is respectful. It is calm. Take a slow breath in and let it out. Walk mentally through the streets. See the walls of houses leaning slightly, still intact. Imagine people walking here long ago, unaware that history would pause them forever. You might notice small details. A broken door handle. A garden overgrown with grass. A window that frames the sky perfectly. Oradour-sur-Glane is not a city that failed. It is a city that survived in memory. It survived because we chose to remember rather than rebuild. Silence here is not absence. It is presence. Presence of history. Presence of people who once lived ordinary lives in an extraordinary situation. The village remains as a lesson. Not all endings are gradual. Not all endings are natural. Some are sudden. Some are deliberate. And some deserve to be remembered exactly as they were. Oradour-sur-Glane does not need new residents. It does not ask for life to resume. The buildings stand, the streets remain, and the wind whispers through the ruins. It is a city preserved as memory, not rebuilt. And that is enough. Take another slow breath. Let the stillness fill you. Listen to the quiet. Oradour-sur-Glane speaks softly. It does not shout. It does not complain. It simply exists. A reminder that sometimes leaving things as they are is the most respectful choice. And in its preserved silence, Oradour-sur-Glane continues to teach us about memory, loss, and the quiet strength of stillness. Chapter 14, The City's Nature Took Back ****. Reflection Chapter. Take a slow breath in. Let it out. Now imagine a street once busy with footsteps, laughter, and chatter. It is quiet. Not empty in a frightening way. Just quiet. This is how nature begins to take cities back. Trees push through cracks in asphalt. Slow, patient growth. Not rushing. Not in a hurry. Just stretching toward the sun. Vines climb walls like soft green fingers. Windows, once full of glass, now frame leaves and sky. Animals explore these spaces. Birds nest in empty apartments. Squirrels find corridors and attics cozy. Foxes wander streets like explorers who own nothing but the path they walk. Water collects where gutters no longer function. Rain creates puddles that shimmer in sunlight. Moss grows silently, quietly, everywhere. City walls crumble, but not violently. Time moves slowly. Stone turns to dust. Concrete softens. And yet, there is beauty in the process. Nature does not hurry. It does not announce its takeover. It is patient, persistent. Imagine a city where once people argued over parking spaces. Now, wildflowers bloom where cars were parked. Grass covers sidewalks. Branches sway where balconies used to hold laundry lines. Animals adapt. They move in carefully, finding homes humans left behind. A rabbit hides under a collapsed roof. A bird builds a nest in a sunlit corner. Insects hum softly among ruins. The city is transforming. It is turning back into landscape. Slowly, gently, without drama. There is a rhythm to this change. It is calm, like breathing, step by step, leaf by leaf, stone by stone. Take another slow breath. Let it fill your lungs. Let it go. In these abandoned places, time feels different. Long, patient, watching. The silence is not empty. It is filled with small sounds. Rustling leaves, distant birdsong, wind moving through broken windows. It is a quiet symphony, and that is what makes these cities feel alive in a new way. Not with people, not with machines, but with life itself. Even buildings adapt. Roofs collapse just enough for sunlight to reach a new patch of earth. Walls crack slowly, allowing roots to take hold. Stone and brick become soil again. Nature heals without noise, without rush, without complaints. It simply moves. This is why abandoned cities can be peaceful. They are not lost. They are transforming. From human spaces into shared spaces with trees, animals, wind, and time. Take a moment to picture it. A playground overtaken by grass. Slides hidden under ferns. Swings swinging in the breeze, moved by air, not hands. An apartment building with vines crawling up its walls. Birds nesting in corners. Sunlight spilling through broken windows. A street where cars once honked now hums softly with the sound of wind and leaves. It is slow. It is calm. It is steady. Time is patient here. It does not hurry. It does not judge. It simply allows transformation. And so do we when we pause and observe. Nature does not erase. It integrates. It takes what humans made and slowly weaves it into life again. These cities remind us that endings are not always dramatic. Sometimes endings are quiet. Sometimes endings are gentle. Sometimes they are beautiful. Take a final deep breath in and let it out slowly. Picture the city again. Stone and trees, buildings and roots, silence and sound, all in balance. A reminder that even when life moves on, the world keeps moving too. Patiently, quietly, calmly. And that is enough. The city's nature took back are not gone. They are simply becoming something else. Something alive. Something slow. Something at peace. Chapter 15. Why Humans Never Returned ****. Philosophical wrap-up. Take a slow breath in. Let it out. We have walked through cities abandoned long ago. Cities frozen by time, by nature, by disaster, by choices. And one thing becomes clear: humans often do not return. Why? Partly it is about sacredness. Ruins carry a quiet power. They are reminders, memorials without plaques. A city like Ani, with 1,000 churches, does not invite rebuilding. Its stone is hallowed by centuries of prayers. To rebuild would be to disturb its calm. Urdur-sur-Glane was left untouched after destruction, not because people forgot, but because remembering mattered more than living there again. The silence itself became sacred. Even nature enforces this. Pripyat, slowly reclaimed by trees and wind, is dangerous to live in. Radiation is invisible, patient, and unforgiving. Humans can't just move back. But that danger, strangely, adds meaning. Empty cities are heavy with memory. Each brick, each street, each fallen wall carries weight. Not just physical weight, emotional weight. People do not return because to do so would be to ignore that weight. To walk where others suffered, where life once thrived, is not a decision taken lightly. It is easier sometimes to let a place rest. Imagine Mohenjo-Daro, silent streets lined with bricks laid thousands of years ago. Imagine Faper Sikri, grand palaces waiting patiently, fountains dry. Imagine Mesa Verde's cliff homes, waiting for families who chose new land. These cities ask something simple. Not for your presence, not for crowds or commerce, just attention, just respect. Humans often choose memory over rebuilding. Memory preserves lessons, beauty, mistakes, and stories. It allows us to visit without changing the past. And there is wisdom in that. Not every city should be reborn. Not every street should be repopulated. Some are better left to exist in their paused state. Because ruins are honest. They do not pretend. They do not adapt to new needs. They speak in quiet tones, letting us listen carefully. Walking through ruins is like walking through time. The silence is a guide. The walls are teachers. The empty homes and markets are storytellers. There is also emotional weight. The absence of people is not emptiness. It is reminder. It is gentle grief. It is respect for what was. Abandoned cities are both warning and wonder. They remind us that life is fragile, that ambition, nature, and circumstance can shift suddenly or slowly, and that our choices too matter. Choosing to remember rather than rebuild is an act of mindfulness. It is saying, we will not erase what happened. We will honor it. And that act itself carries life. Memory keeps the people, the stories, the lessons alive, even when the streets are empty, even when the buildings crumble slowly. Take a slow breath in and let it out. Imagine standing in a silent city. Feel the weight of years pressing softly around you. Hear the wind, birds, maybe distant water. Notice the walls, the stones, the remnants of lives lived. You do not need to rebuild. You do not need to fill the silence with noise. Just being there, quietly, is enough. Humans never return because some cities belong to memory more than life. Because sometimes respect is more important than utility. Because some places are teachers, not homes. And that is okay. The abandoned streets, the empty homes, the paused markets, all of it matters. Not as places to live, but as places to reflect, remember, and learn. Take one last slow breath in. Let it out fully. These cities teach patience, humility, and respect. They remind us of time, of nature, of human choices. They remind us that sometimes the wisest thing we can do is step back. And in doing so, we carry their stories forward. Humans never returned. And maybe in memory, that is the most alive they have ever been. Chapter 16, Walking Alone Through an Empty City ***. Guided Imagination. Take a slow breath in and let it out. Now imagine you are standing at the edge of a city. Not a busy city, not a noisy city, but an empty one. Silent, calm, and waiting. The streets are wide, paved, or cobbled, with soft light spilling from the sky above. Perhaps it is early morning. Perhaps it is evening. Time moves slowly here. Take a step forward. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Each footfall is gentle, almost whispering. The sound is soft, rhythmic, comforting. Notice the buildings. Some tall, some low. Windows are empty, some open to the breeze, some shaded quietly. Walls are warm with sunlight, cool in shadow. Textures change as you walk. Smooth stone, rough brick, faded paint. Listen carefully. You hear wind moving through the streets. A gentle rustle of leaves. Distant birds calling softly. There is no fear here. No urgency. No rush. Only calm. Look around. Notice small details. A vine climbing a wall. A broken gate swinging slowly. A puddle reflecting the sky. Each step is slow, deliberate. Allow your body to feel the rhythm of walking. One step, then the other. Take another deep breath in. Let it out slowly. You pass a small square. Perhaps a fountain stands dry, or water trickles softly. Benches sit quietly, waiting for someone who will never come. But you are here, and that is enough. The city feels alive in a different way. Not with people, not with noise, but with time, air, and space. A calm presence that embraces you. As you continue walking, notice the shadows. How sunlight moves across walls. How windows frame patches of sky. Everything shifts gently. Nothing surprises you. Nothing rushes you. Breathe slowly. And perhaps you see a tree growing through a courtyard. Its roots have pushed softly through stone, unhurried, patient. Birds perch quietly in its branches. Even animals, if you look closely, move calmly through hidden corners. You may pass a building that once held life. A home, a shop, a school. Notice the details without touching. Notice the colors faded by sun. The textures worn by years. The traces of life without intrusion. The city moves with you. Softly, gently. It encourages your body to relax, to release tension. Your muscles soften with each step. Your mind slows. Your heartbeat becomes steady calm. Take another slow breath in and let it out. Now imagine a small street. Cobblestones under your feet. Wind brushing your skin. Perhaps a single bird sings somewhere above. Notice the rhythm of your steps. Feel how calm it is to move without purpose. No hurry. No appointments. No decisions. Just you. And the city. Look at the walls beside you. Notice cracks, small plants growing in crevices. Notice shadows shifting as the sun moves. Feel the air move softly across your face. The city is quiet, but it is not empty. It is filled with calm, patience, and presence. It invites you to walk, to breathe, to notice. Another step, another breath. Notice how your body feels lighter. Notice how your mind feels softer. Notice how your eyes enjoy the small details. You may see an archway leading to another street. Step through it slowly. Feel the space expand around you. Notice the sounds change. Wind, distant birds, soft echoes of empty streets. Take another slow breath in and let it go. Perhaps you find a park, overgrown but gentle. Grass soft under your feet. A quiet bench invites you to sit. Sit if you wish. Let your body sink. Let your mind drift. Everything here moves at its own pace. Nothing pushes you. Nothing distracts you. Just calm, steady, slow. If your eyes are closed, imagine soft sunlight, warm but not hot, filtering through leaves and broken windows. Imagine air that smells faintly of earth and stone. Imagine the soft sound of wind passing through the city. Take another deep breath in and let it out slowly. You are alone in this city, but you are not lonely. The city is companionable, soft, patient. Notice your heartbeat. Notice your breath. Notice how calm everything feels. Every step slows you further. Every sight softens your mind. Let yourself sink into this calm. Notice how your body responds. Notice how drowsiness may come naturally. Notice how peaceful it feels to be here, alone but safe. Step slowly through another street. Notice how shadows, stone, and wind interact. Notice the gentle rhythm of your steps. Take one more slow, deep breath and let it out. The city continues around you. Quiet streets, soft wind, distant birds. You move calmly, slowly, peacefully. There is nowhere else to be, nothing else to do. Let your body relax completely. Let your mind drift softly. The empty city guides you. It encourages sleep. It encourages stillness. It encourages calm. And now, as you continue to walk step by step, breath by breath, let drowsiness take over. The city, the wind, the birds, and the silence will watch gently. No rush, no noise, only calm. You are safe. You are at peace. And the city waits patiently while you drift slowly towards sleep. Chapter 17, The Lesson of Abandoned Cities ****. Meaningful close. Take a slow breath in and let it out. We have walked through streets once full of life. We have seen cities empty, quiet, paused. We have listened to walls, stone, and earth speak. And now we pause together to reflect. Abandoned cities teach us something simple. Everything humans build is temporary. Everything. Even the grandest palaces. Even the busiest trade centers. Even the most careful planning. Time does not rush, but it does not wait either. Rivers shift. Jungles grow. Soil tires. Rulers change. Disasters happen. Cities once full of people slowly empty. Streets soften. Walls crumble. And yet, there is dignity in what remains. Ruins are not failures. They are reminders. Careful, patient, quiet reminders of what once was. And in their silence, they speak with calm authority. Think of Pompeii, frozen in ash. Think of Mesa Verde, tucked in cliffs. Think of Pripyat, slowly reclaimed by trees and wind. All of these places tell us the same thing. Human achievement is impermanent, and that is not sad. It is honest. It is peaceful. Ruins are patient teachers. They do not shout. They do not demand. They wait. They remind. They let us listen. Abandoned cities show the quiet dignity of effort. Stone walls, brick streets, homes carefully built and then left. Even when people leave, the care is visible. The thought put into every corner, every doorway, every window is still there. We can still feel it if we slow down and notice. These cities remind us to honor what was, not by rebuilding, not by changing it, but by remembering. Memory is the most respectful preservation. It allows us to appreciate achievement without needing to occupy it. It lets life move forward while history remains intact. Every abandoned city carries lessons. Lessons about balance, about patience, about knowing when to leave, about understanding limits, about listening to nature, to circumstance, and to time itself. Take a slow breath in and let it go. Time is the final storyteller. It moves slowly, steadily, without judgment. It turns vibrant cities into calm ruins. It reshapes streets into forests, palaces into memory. It teaches us humility and wisdom. Even the most striking human creations eventually rest. And that rest is not emptiness. It is quiet dignity. It is an invitation to notice, reflect, and learn. As you think about these cities, imagine their lessons stretching to your own life. Impermanence is natural. Change is inevitable. And yet, beauty, care, and thought leave lasting impressions. Abandoned cities are full of presence. Presence without noise. Presence without action. Presence without expectation. They invite us to slow down, to observe, to breathe, to honor both human achievement and human limits. Take another deep breath. Let it out gently. Think of the streets once walked by people long ago. Homes carefully built and later left behind. Trade and music and laughter gone. And yet the walls still stand. The lesson is clear. Cities are reminders, not failures, not regrets, but evidence of effort, care, and life lived. And the story continues softly. Time moves on. Nature adapts. Humans remember. And the cities wait. Take one final slow breath in. and let it out completely. Abandoned cities are not sad. They are wise. They are patient. They are calm. And their quiet dignity teaches us something very simple. All things change. All things end. And all things, in their own time, leave beauty behind. The lesson of abandoned cities is this: notice, respect, remember, and carry that wisdom with you gently, like a quiet step through empty streets. The cities speak, time listens, and we too learn to listen. Chapter 18, closing. The world sleeps. The cities remain asterisk asterisk. Gentle ending. Take a slow, deep breath in and let it out slowly. The world around you is quiet now. Even in places where people still live, the rhythm slows. The streets soften with night. The sky darkens gently. The world prepares to rest. And the cities we have walked through, in your mind, remain. Some are ancient. Some are modern. Some are frozen by time. Some are quietly claimed by nature. They all wait patiently. Picture the empty streets. Stone walls bathed in soft light. Trees swaying slowly. Birds calling faintly in the distance. You walk through them gently. Each step is soft, deliberate. You notice small details. A cracked window. A vine climbing a wall. A faded sign. There is nothing rushing. Nothing demanding your attention. No noise, no urgency. Just calm. The cities hold memories of life once lived. They do not need people to continue being. The streets, walls, and stones are enough. The silence is enough. Even as the world sleeps around you, these places remain. They are patient. They are steady. They remind us that time does not hurry. Take another slow breath in and let it go. Imagine a fountain trickling softly in one city. In another, a tree grows through an empty courtyard. A bird flies across a quiet plaza. And far away, waves lap against an abandoned harbor. The cities do not mourn absence. They are not lonely. They are calm. They simply exist. You are safe here. No one will rush you. No one will disturb the silence. It is yours to notice, to breathe, to feel. And as you continue walking in your imagination, allow your body to relax. Each breath grows slower. Each heartbeat steadies. Your muscles soften. Your mind unwinds. Notice the little things. A gentle breeze through a broken window. Shadows shifting on cobblestone streets. The faint sound of leaves brushing against walls. Even in emptiness, there is life. Soft, patient, calm. Take another slow breath in and let it go slowly. The world sleeps and the cities remain. Silent, waiting, teaching. They remind us that life continues, even when we are not watching. They remind us that peace can exist without activity. They remind us that stillness has its own story. Imagine sitting on a quiet bench in one of these cities. Feel the cool stone beneath you. Listen to the wind, soft against the walls. Notice your body, your breath, you're calm. There is no need to move, no need to rush. Everything is exactly as it should be. As you sit, notice how the world outside is faded. Your thoughts grow slower. The pull of wakefulness softens. Drowsiness arrives gently. Take another deep, soft breath in and let it out fully. The cities, patient and still, invite you to rest. They offer quiet companionship. Not noisy, not demanding, just gentle presence. Notice how comforting it is to be here, to move slowly in imagination, to feel calm in body and mind, to know that the world sleeps, but the cities remain. You do not need to hurry. You do not need to think. Just be, breathe, relax. Every empty street, every silent square, every stone wall waits patiently, and so can you. Let your body sink further into calm. Let your mind drift like leaves on a gentle stream. Let sleep come softly. Take a final slow breath in and let it out fully. The world sleeps. The cities remain. And now, so do you. The streets are quiet. The walls are patient. The wind moves softly, and the world holds you gently. Rest now. Breathe slowly, and let the silence carry you into calm, gentle sleep. Everything is as it should be. Everything is at peace. The world sleeps, and the cities remain.